Hello, I'm Sam Connor, Sales Manager here at Interface. We're Bitrix24 Gold Partners. In today's video, I'm going to show you our recruitment and employee onboarding solution built on Bitrix24. So first of all, we'll see how we can capture candidate information and store all of that history and communication with the candidate in a centralized area. We'll then see how we can streamline the entire interview process, capturing all critical information at the correct time. And then we'll see how we can then manage the employee onboarding cycle and where we can then see a clear oversight across all departments as to where the employee is at during the onboarding process. Okay, so let's go into our Bitrix24 system, and here in our candidates area, we can see all of the candidates that we are currently working on within the HR team to progress through interviews for specific jobs. So we can click into a candidate's record. And within here, we can then see all of the information about the candidate. So we can see all of their details here. And on the right-hand side, with the connection of our emails and telephony, I can see all of the correspondence that has taken place with the candidate. And through here, we can then also generate new emails to go out to the candidate, and you can use templates inside the system here, and I can play back calls that we have had with the candidate previously. So all of that history of information connected to the candidate is stored in the candidates page. We can store files as well, such as the candidate CV in the system. And in our qualifications area, we can store all of the qualifications that are associated to the job that the candidate is registered for. So all of the qualifications that are mandatory for that role, we can easily store their qualifications in their qualifications area here. And then we have our interview area. So here we can manage the entire interview process for this candidate who is connected to the job. So inside the interview page here, we can see all of the information about the applicant and then the job that they are registering for. And we can see this candidate is at the phone interview stage. So the activity is stored in the system for the HR representative who is responsible for the phone interview. And as we progress the candidate through the interview process here, we can see we have automated processes set up. So if the candidate gets through to the second interview stage, we're automating an email communication out to them with a link so they can book their second interview. And when we get to the final checks and hiring stage, we've got an approval process in place. So with our solution, you can automate a lot of manual activities that you may be doing right now during your interview process. Okay, so inside here, when we're ready for the phone interview, we can call the candidates through here. So we can have that phone interview with the candidate directly through the interview page. And then once that is completed, we can then move the candidate through the final stages here. So we're going to move them on to the second interview stage. And that has now automated the email out to the candidate so they can book their second interview. And in here, I'm going to add a comment to make our HR director aware that this candidate has moved to the second interview stage. Okay, so we can capture all of the comments and communications amongst the internal teams inside the system here. And then we also have all of the external actions as well. And then once we get through to those final stages, we can confirm the hire and approve that in the system here. So you can manage the entire employee registered process for hiring the candidate. And that then moves us on to, once the recruitment side is done, we then have our employee onboarding workflow. So as soon as Sam Connor has been hired, this has now opened up the employee onboarding workflow. So we can see the stages that we're progressing the employee through here, and we can see each department that's responsible at each stage. And so you get a really high level overview here as to what stage the employee is at during the onboarding process. And the hire there, Sam Connor, that has just been hired, that has now created an employee onboarding record in the workflow here. And now this is with the HR team, first of all, who has specific tasks that they need to complete. And some information from the recruitment process has fed into the employees onboarding record here. So we have, again, have a centralized page to store all of the information about the employees onboarding. So if we now move over to the HR managers Bitrix, so they have their tasks that they need to complete for the onboarding of the new employee, Sam Connor. So we can open up the assignment. So we can see there are critical pieces of information that the HR manager needs to input before we can move to the next stage of the employee onboarding. So I need to select their manager, and we need to confirm what IT equipment they require before we can progress any further. So you can see here, using rules as we go through the employee onboarding, we can ensure the most critical information is captured at the correct stage at the correct time before the process can go any further. So let's confirm here what technical equipment that the new employee requires. So we've completed our assignment there. And then what we can see is if we go back to our employee onboarding page, we can see now that's automatically captured the information here. And now it's moved us to the next stage, which is the IT setup stage. So we can review that information here. And now it's going through to the final hiring process. So we have an approval process in place to review all of the information, and then the employee is onboarded. So you have a centralized area with automated processes to manage the entire onboarding workflow. And again, you can see all that information. You could drill down into specific stages or different categories of information using the filtering tool here. So that shows our recruitment and employee onboarding solution. You can manage the entire candidate lifecycle through the interview process, and then you can manage the onboarding of the employee, moving the onboarding record to the correct team at the correct stage and ensuring critical information is captured at the correct time. So if you have any questions about the recruitment and employee onboarding solution, please do contact us, sales@interface.com, and you can see all of our solutions at interface.com/solutions.